Apparently some people are actually waiting for this. The Paladin Guide. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam, and whether you want to purge evil or smite the wicked, I am here to help you with everything. Now, it's simply impossible to start without me asking you to subscribe to my show, click the bell, give me a like, tell your friends, do what you do, and thank you for watching. Paladins. I have a bit of a weird relationship with Dungeons & Dragons Paladins. In a lot of other games, Paladins are amongst my first picks to play. I love being the tanky plate guy who also gets to heal himself, because dying is for wimps. Clear and simple. In Dungeons & Dragons, however, I don't think I've ever played a paladin for a relevant amount of time. Sure, I've built a few and I've dabbled in maybe one or two one-shots, but that's it. Oh well, don't worry, I've seen enough paladins at my table to know what they're capable of, and I do like watching them do their stuff, but there's something in there that just makes me want to play clerics more than paladins every time. I don't know what it is. Oh well, Smite's fun, that's what we're going to talk about. Let's do this. So, paladins, what does the party expect of you when you are playing a paladin? I think I've already summed it up mostly. They expect you to wear the heaviest of armor, they expect you to be up in front in the face of the enemies, and they expect you to have some holy stuff up your sleeve. And the definition of the stuff will depend. Most people will actually just expect you to smite all day long. Paladins don't cast spells. Those spell slots are only there to measure how many times you can smite a day. So that's the good news, actually, because not a lot of people actually expect paladins to cast spells, apparently. When you do so, you're already contributing more to a standard group than a lot of other paladins are. People will also expect you to be a face of the party. Maybe not the face. If there's like a bard or a sorcerer, they will probably have higher charisma than you, but they will certainly expect you to partake in the social gatherings that are happening in character because you have a decent charisma stat. What paladins cannot do, I try to avoid this because I'm an enabler, I like to enable character classes, but the paladin design is really made against being able to do ranged damage, mainly because your smite feature only works on melee attacks, and that is your big damage button in the entire paladin standard kit. So ranged damage really isn't your shtick. Other than that, so hitting stuff, tanking, socializing, that's all good. You could even build an exploration paladin if you wanted to. By that I mean exploration characters are usually dexterity based, and it's perfectly possible to play a medium armor paladin with rapiers and still smite, because unlike the barbarian where it specifically states that you only add rage damage on strength attacks, for paladins it doesn't matter. It only specifies that it needs to be a melee attack. So paladins can be dexterity built, huzzah, but usually you're just the platey swingy guy. Now the platey swingy guy can have a big sword, or sword and a shield, even dual wielding if you really want to nowadays, thanks to feats in Tasha's. So in that aspect you can do what you want up front, but it is an upfront there, out there class that is expected to tank, a little bit of healing now and then, and smite with great vengeance while talking to people, in short. Now, I saw I opened the wrong tab, I need my document, blah blah blah. So I talked about what paladins can do, what paladins cannot do. What do they get is the most important part. As always, I start in the defensive department. Paladins have a D10 hit die, which is good because you're up front a lot, so you need hit points. So you have more than the cleric, the bard, the rogue, the what have you. You have an equal hit die to the fighter and the ranger, other martial upfronty classes, but you have less hit points than a barbarian. On the other side, you will have more armor class and your saves will be a lot higher than the barbarian. So you'll be fine with the 1 hit point per level that you're missing. You'll be fine. So you get a d10 hit die. You get all armor and all shields. Well, all shields, there's only 1 in 5th edition. So you have all armor and shields when it comes to defensive proficiencies. And you also have all weapons when it comes to weapon proficiencies. Well, not all that. You know, nowadays there's like this feat that allows you to use some exotic stabby stab weapon, but you have all the regular weapons. So both simple and martial weapons. You're a paladin, you have been trained in the art of combat in a way that is not unsimilar to the fighter. So you are one of the most capable martially trained people out there. Obviously, you get saving throws as well. Oddly enough, the paladin gets to mental save throws, so you get wisdom and charisma. Wisdom's good, prevents you from being mind controlled. Charisma's okay, prevents you from being banished. Your charisma save is going to be very high because charisma is actually one of your ability scores that you're going to need. Your wisdom save, because you're proficient in it, will not suck. I know you would like me to say, wow, you have proficiency, you'll be great at it, but the paladin is not a wisdom class, so boo-hoo, and you actually have very little wisdom, very little reason to build a high wisdom paladin, and even worse so, very little space to build a high wisdom paladin. Because when we look at ability scores, my dear people, the paladin is the most multi-ability score dependent class there is out there. You will need Constitution, for sure, you want to stay alive. You will need Charisma to fuel your spells and a few of your Paladin abilities. So, though technically it's possible, I suppose, to play a lower Charisma Paladin, but a few abilities here and there actually depend on it. So it's better to have it a bit higher, especially if you have some offensive spells as well. And then you will need probably Strength to wield those weapons to carry that armor, or you can take the dexterity path and have a little bit less armor and swing rapiers, but you won't suck in stealth necessarily, or in acrobatics or what have you. So it's strength con charisma or dex con charisma. Works fine, pick what you want. The fact that you have 3 main ability scores really leaves you with very little option for other ability scores to be pumped up. If you're using point buy or standard array, you will have very little points left to put in dexterity or strength, depending on which you pick, and then intelligence and wisdom. And that's a bit silly in it, because paladins are usually seen as relatively wise. You know, they've been trained in the spiritual arts, they know what they're doing. Alas, your wisdom will quite often be 8, because, well, yeah, that's where the points were gone, really. If you roll your stats, you could get lucky. Maybe you got all around high stats and you paladin won't be an unwise idiot as well. So yeah, the ability score system is not in favor of making diverse paladins. They're all going to have pretty similar stats. Thank you, very badly aged system. Okay, enough whining about that. You get one more thing, of course. You get skill proficiencies. You get the usual, let me see, yes, 2 out of 6 skills. They're obviously it's a mix of the fighter and the cleric skills. You can take religion, but you also get athletics. You get intimidation, but you also get medicine. It's a mixed bag. It's a good mixed bag, actually. I like the skill options for paladins. What else do you get at level 1? The most important paladin feature of all. Divine Sense. This basically turns you into a sonar for finding celestial fiends or undead within the amazing range of 60 feet. Well, ain't that useful? It has its uses. If you know something is near, it might be invisible. But it can't be behind total cover either. So if it's behind a big wall, you won't see it. I think this is more than anything, this is a flavor ability for paladins. I don't think I've seen this being put to great use in a standard campaign. It has its niches, of course. If you're stuck in hell, well, the sonar is going to do boop, 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 all the time, so it won't give you that much information. It tells you that there is a Celestial, a Fiend, or an Undead. It gives you the location as well, which is cool. It doesn't tell you who it is, though. You know it's an Undead, you don't know it's Rotten Zombie. I mean, that's okay. I think the main downside to this thing is the very limited range. 60 feet is nothing, and you can only use it a number of times equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. So you couldn't even like turn it on, walk a few miles, turn it on again, and just scan the room, really. No, you only have 6 uses tops, and let's face it, most paladins are not going to max out their charisma. Uses of this ability, and then it's gone. So it has strategic uses, but it's really more flavored than anything else. No, the really useful ability that you get at level 1 is Lay on Hands. It is why paladins can also very easily fill the spot as a healer, which I forgot to mention, but paladins also make really good healers. First and foremost, thanks to Lay on Hands. Basically, after a long rest, you receive a pool of hit points. Those are not hit points that you add to your hit points. It's a floating pool of backup hit points that you have somewhere, and it's 5 for each paladin level, so 5 at 1, 10 at 2, 15 at 3, and so on and so on. And you can touch someone. It's called Lay on Hands. You can lay your hands on someone and expend any number of points from the reserve to heal the target for that amount of hit points. Doesn't work on undead, doesn't work on constructs, obviously. So it's a nice backup pool of healing. I think what I like about Lay on Hands is that you can determine exactly the amount of hit points that you're going to hand out. No need to roll dice. You can know you're missing 5 health. Beepity boop. Here you have 5 health. Does it scale tremendously well? No, but it's a really good backup pocket of healing energy that you have. It's not a spell, so it cannot be counterspelled. It doesn't require any fancy components or words. So you can be silent and still Lay on Hands. There can be a no magic zone. You can still use Lay on Hands. There can be a chap counterspelling you all day, every day. You can still use Lay on Hands. So it doesn't scale immensely well with the game, but it is immune to all the shit dungeon masters can throw at you to prevent you from using magic. This, technically speaking, is not a spell. So good, really good. It also means that at the highest level, when you have 100 hit points, you can use one action to heal for 100 hit points without spending a spell slot. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's good, it's good. It's not overpowered, it's good. And that is the level 1 paladin. There we are. Let's move on, shall we? Level 2, you actually become a paladin, because at level 1, the paladin is more like a fighter with a medkit than anything else. But at level 2, you really become a paladin. First off, you get a fighting style. You got a lot of choices. Basically, you have every choice that is not the ranged fighting style or the dual wielding fighting style. You get defense, you get dual linkdo, so the one-handed style. Great weapon fighting protection. And I have to check in Tasha's, the paladins got more fighting styles. You got the one where you can learn 2 cantrips from the cleric list, which can be really handy, because remember when I said that a paladin doesn't really have a ranged alternative? This could give you one aside from throwing javelins. This could net you Toll the Dead or Sacred Flame rather. Wow. Or possibly, since paladins don't have cantrips, this could give you access to guidance as well. So it's actually pretty good. You get blind fighting, one of those niche fighting styles. If you want to be Daredevil with a holy streak, that's the one. And you get interception as well, where you can kind of impose yourself or your shield to block off damage that somebody next to you would take. I have a mixed relationship with this fighting style. I like the idea, but it doesn't scale very well because you can only use it once. So a lot of enemies have multi-attack in 5e. You can only block one attack partially. It's like a d10 plus your proficiency modifier. And that's why it scales badly. It's always 1d10 and it's always your proficiency modifier. So it's going to go from 12 max to, what is it, plus 6 at the end, to 16 damage max that you block on one dragon that is mauling away at your wizard. The paladin will go like, don't worry chaps, I can block 16 damage once per round. It's good because it doesn't cost you any resources, it doesn't cost you any hit points, so it's good at lower levels. It's a bit junky at higher levels, I think, personally. Oh well. Of course, at level 2, you get one more very important thing, namely spellcasting and some irrelevant paladin ability that is tied to it that's called smiting. I'll talk about it in a bit. First off, spellcasting. Your spellcasting ability modifier is charisma, and paladins. Yes, paladins. Those are the paladins that actually cast spells. Paladins. No, paladins will only learn up to 5th level spells, so they have the same progression as the ranger and the artificer, who I have already talked about. I've been ignoring the ranger for a while. Shh, don't tell him. So you have level 1 spells from level 2 to level 5. You'll learn level 2 spells then. You learn level 3 spells at level 9, level 4 spells at level 13, and level 17 will give you 5th level spells. Yes, I had to look this up because I'm not really that familiar with the half-caster spell tables. I've been dying to play an artificer, but some silly pandemic has been postponing the game where that is going to happen. Anyway, spellcasting for paladins. It's charisma based, it goes up to 5th level, and you're not looking at these spells to find major sources of damage. You'll get that from smiting, of course. You're looking at these spells a lot of the time for utility or damage plus utility. The good news is paladins prepare their spells just like clerics, druids, artificers, and kind of wizards, I suppose. So each morning you can pick a fresh selection from your finest spells, my good sir. At level 1 you do, well, level 1 spells that is. At level 2, paladin wise, you get good stuff already, like Bless. There is Divine Favor, which I like quite a bit actually. Divine Favor gives you 1 minute, I believe it is, 1 minute in which all of your weapon attacks deal 1d4 radiant damage extra. And this is actually, it's a bit silly, but it's a spell that makes a dual-wielding paladin a bit more viable than a lot of people think it is. And because this basically gives you extra damage, you can pick up the the 2-weapon fighting style at level 4 if you want to. So in combination, these two things actually make you very viable with 2 swords, 2 axes, 2 hammers, what have you, especially at lower levels. Other good stuff that you get is Shield of Fate, of course, and the Smite Spells. The Smite Spells are a bunch of bonus action spells that activate on your next hit, and they all deal some damage, but you're mainly here for the secondary effect, putting stuff on fire, making sure they can't turn invisible, other fancy stuff that I can't remember. They are there for the utility factor. If you want the raw damage, you're always better off just smiting. But they're good spells, their little effects provide very useful bonuses in combat. So there's the smites, Bless, you have Ceremony if you want to abuse that wedding ceremony now and then. You also have Cure Wounds though, and I know that usually I'm here bashing Cure Wounds for being the useless of the 2 basic healing spells, but since you don't get Healing Word as a paladin, you only get Cure Wounds. This baby is going to complement your Lay on Hands ability to make your paladin a very qualified healer, to be honest. If you have your pool of Lay on Hands points together with a few Cure Wound spells when necessary, you will actually be a very capable healer. If your party is still dying, they should try to avoid the damn source of damage. So I was going to jump straight into smiting when I remembered that the paladins actually have a very limited spell list, and I thought it was a better idea that I just get that over with, go through the paladin spell list and be done with it. Now, why do the paladins have such a limited spell list? It's very simple. You only get spells up to level 5, that's one reason, and you know that it always goes in a pyramid. You get a broader selection of level 1 spells, smaller level 2, even smaller level 3, and so on. So if your pyramid caps at level 5, it's going to be even smaller in selections. Now the good news is all paladins gain extra spells from the Oath they will select at level 3. Your subclass basically is going to give you extra spells, and if you put those together with the base paladin spells, you have a healthy selection of spells, especially for a half-caster class. Remember, you're not a cleric. I've already covered the level 1 spells, And there's one more thing I want to say for Paladin magic before I go to level 2. I think it's especially at level 1, but also in the higher levels. Paladins have a lot of concentration spells. They have quite a nice amount of good spells, but a lot of them are concentration. You'll notice there's quite a few aura spells that provide extra healing and what have you, which is all really great, but they are concentration based and you do not have constitution proficiency for your saves. So Warcaster or Resilient Constitution is a decent pickup for the Paladin, because your best spells, well, a lot of your best spells are concentration spells, and you have no way of pumping up your concentration checks from your class. Well, just a bit, obviously, from your aura later on. That will improve your saves a bit, but at the lowest level you got zilch. So upping your concentration in some way is really advised, because you're up front and you're getting hit a lot. So even with the aura, it's still nice if you have Warcaster, it's still nice if you have Resilient Constitution to make it even better and to not lose concentration on your spells. So we did level 1 spells, few decent options there. Level 2 spells is already a lot more limited. There's a few new smites in there. Aid is in there, Isle of Aid. More hit points for the party means more chances that they'll actually survive the entire ordeal. Magic weapon, if needed for another party member, you can just smite through most immunities, you'll be fine. And there's Find Steed in there, and Lesser Restoration is also good stuff to get rid of those basic annoyances, really. Then if we move on to level 3 spells, again there's a few smites in there. These keep working among the same protocol. You cast them as a bonus action, they activate on your next hit. For example, there's Blinding Smite, which apart from the damage could also possibly blind the target for an entire minute. Just like other spells, the effect needs a saving roll. The damage will come through the moment you hit, the damage will launch, but for the blind effect and for many of the other paladin effects, a save is rolled. You do get daylight, not unimportant, because darkness is such an annoying spell, and it's really good if you have someone in your party who can dispel darkness, even though you as a paladin, because of your lower caster level, might not have the strength, the spell level strength to dispel darkness. Because don't forget, darkness is dispelled by an equal level spell of daylight. So level 3 darkness needs a level 3 spell of daylight. So if somebody casts level 6 darkness, you're humped. You can't contribute anything to the table at that point. Might as well go home on your shiny horse. You do get Dispel Magic, and that is good stuff. I love Dispel Magic. Dispel Magic saves lives. Remove Curse, Revivify. So, as I said, the Paladins have a lot of really good supporting tools in their kit. So do your party a favor. Don't blow all of your spell slots on smiting. Don't. Just keep one of each level or whatever in the backup pockets for nasty magics. There's one spell that I want to talk about. I forgot this in my preparation, but Crusader's Mantle is actually a really good spell. I have to check again what it does. Oh yeah, I talked about Divine Favor earlier, how it was a good spell because it adds 1d4 radiant damage to all of your attacks. Crusader's Mantle does the same for the entire party. So if you have a party with quite a few martial-oriented characters, ideally people with a lot of attacks, fighters, then Crusader's Mantle is really good actually. And it keeps the dual-wielding build for Paladins kind of alive without gimping the party. So I like Crusader's Mantle in the level 3 section. But level 3 is a really valuable level for Paladin spells. It's way out there, it's level 9. You need to be a Paladin of level 9 to get those, but they're really good. It makes me really happy to see that Paladins can prepare spells every day, because a few of these might be situational, but it's a really nice tier of spells, and some subclasses get some amazing extra options on this tier as well. Level 4, a lot of auras. You get Banishment, Death Ward, find a Greater Steed, so your horse is better now. More smites, Banishing Smite, So I think you get both banishment. Yeah, you get banishment and banishing smite. So you are there to get stuff onto another plane, and that's good. You have very limited spell slots, of course, of level 4, but you have a decent selection. And then we talk about the most important spell tier for Paladins, 5th level spells. Why is it the most important tier? Because every Paladin gets there? No, because it's the one tier that you will never use for smiting, because wasting 5th level slots on a smite is not really good. I'll tell you why in a moment. What do you get at this level? Some decent stuff. You can summon a Celestial, not a greater one though, it's a normal Celestial. You get Geese, so mind control for a Paladin. You got Command at level 1 if I'm not mistaken, and Compelled Duel. Here you have Geese, already a pretty strong mind control spell. Maybe a bit un-paladin-y for some, but don't forget that Paladins don't have to be those lawfully good boys anymore, so they can mind control, that's okay. You also get Holy Weapon and Raise Dead. Raise Dead's pretty obvious, I'm going to talk about Holy Weapon. I like Holy Weapon. Why? Kicks so much ass. What it does is it enchants your weapon. Every time you hit, it will add 2d8 on top of whatever damage you're rolling. The weapon will also shed off bright holy light, and you can stop the spell, and then a flashbang will happen, blinding everything around you. Good stuff. The spell also lasts for an entire hour. It's a concentration spell, of course, but it's a bonus action. You can just turn it on, give a few whacks. This spell is the reason why you cannot smite at level 5, because why would you? This spell easily outscales smite damage. You will see in a moment that smite damage is capped. Basically, if you use a spell slot that is stronger than a level 4 spell slot, it will deal the damage of a level 4 spell slot. This allows you to outdamage using a 5th level spell slot as smite easily. So this is a great spell, and you can stack it on top of smite. And that brings us seamlessly to Divine Smite, the one feature all the Paladins are here for, and the feature I talk about last, at level 2. How does it work? It's very simple. It has one condition and one resource you have to spend. A, you have to hit a creature with a melee attack. B, you have to spend a spell slot. If you do, your hit will deal bonus damage. So if you hit with a longsword, bonk, you deal 1d8, and if you say, oh, I'll burn a level 1 spell slot, bish bash, you'll add 2d8 of radiant damage. This scales with the spell slot's level. Every higher spell slot adds 1d8 of damage. There is a maximum to it though. You can only add plus 5 d8, plus 5, and if you can count with me, that means you have 2 at level 1, 3 at level 2, 4 at level 3, and 5 at a level 4 spell slot. That is the maximum amount. There is no use in smiting with higher spell slots than level 4. So your level 5 slots, use them for casting. If you're playing some funky hybrid and you have 6th level spell slots, use them for casting. You will never get a higher smite than a level 4 smite. Except when you're hitting an undead or a fiend, I believe. Yes, then you get an extra bonus d8 to burn that holy justice straight into their buttocks. So 5d8 is the max, 6d8 if you're hitting stuff that's squishy for holy damage. That's basically how smite works. I've said it before. Use it, but don't spend all your spell slots on it. Sometimes you might actually need to cast something. Alright, we go on. We've covered most of the Paladin now, actually. Most of the stuff that you're getting now is very simple. Level 3, you get your subclass. Huzzah! That's for another video. You also get a channel divinity like the cleric, but it's always tied to your subclass. There's no general channel divinity for the paladins. There's no turn undead. Paladins get one specific channel divinity option tied to the subclass. You also get what's it called, divine health. It's one of those flavor paladins things, but it's useful now and then. You are immune to disease. I've had campaigns where we would argue that this also means you cannot get drunk anymore. But I would rule that that is more of a poison than a disease. But still, it's your game. Have fun. So you are immune to diseases, you have sworn your oath. At level 4, 8, 12, 16 and 19 are of course your ability score increased levels, so that's very simple. You don't forget you should prioritize strength more than charisma. Even if you're a caster paladin, strength is going to get you a lot farther because it makes your smites hit. Huzzah! And your smite damage is in no way tied to your charisma. So strength is most important, then you can see constitution or charisma. And you can take cool feats like I said it, Warcaster, Sentinel, maybe some funky fighting style you want. Whatever, the sky's the limit, you build your paladin. At level 5 you get extra attack, huzzah, and now you can hit twice in a turn. That also means you can smite twice in a turn, because smite is not, unlike sneak attack for example, which is limited to once per round, smite is not limited. You can smite on both the attacks, and you can smite on your attack of opportunity as well. Why? Because it's limited in resources. You know, you have spell slots. If they're gone, your smite's gone. There was one more important thing to talk about with... Oh yeah, I forgot one important thing for smite, my dear people. And that is that, of course, all of those dice double on a critical hit. I was going through my level 3 features so quickly because they're pretty irrelevant for this video actually, that I forgot to tell you. But don't forget that if you crit with smite, all of your smite dice double as well. It's the same as sneak attack. So you roll your weapon twice, you roll all of your smite damage twice as well. It's a lot of dice really. At level 6, you get your most important aura. I think there's a few aura spells. You get another one at level 10, but this is the most important one. It's Aura of Protection. It means that anyone within 10 feet of you, any friendly creature of course, gets a buff to their saving throws. And the buff is equal to your charisma modifier. So this is where I said that one of your auras will buff your concentration saves a bit. This is the one. Aura of Protection. I'm going to assume a lot of paladins start out at 14 charisma, maybe 16 if you like to live dangerously. So that's a +2 or a +3 to all saving throws for you and your friends that are standing very close to you. At 18th level, the aura becomes 30 feet, which is amazing. But it's way down the line. Even when it's not 30 feet, it's a really strong aura to keep your buddies safe. Everything in between level 6 and level 10 is either an ability score, a subclass feature, spellcasting, you name it. At level 10 you get your second aura. Same concept, 10 feet becomes 30 feet aura around you at level 18. This one means that you and your friends can't be frightened as long as you're conscious. So yes, you can still get nightmares, but if you're awake, you cannot be frightened and neither can your friends. It's more of a niche aura than the previous one, but still it might come in handy. Fear is something that occurs depending on your campaign. At level 11, something important, your Divine Smite becomes an improved Divine Smite. Yes, you just add an extra die whenever you smite. You don't have to spend a spell slot. So that doesn't mean you should now start looking forward to burning your 5th level spell slots. No. Your level 1 spell slot now deals 3 damage. Your 3d8. Your level 2 gets 4, and so on and so on and so on. So it's free damage. It's the best kind of damage there is. At level 14 you get one more very important supporting paladin feature and one more reason to buff your charisma modifier, because the amount of time that you can use Cleansing Touch is equal to your charisma modifier. And what it does is very simple. You can use an action to end a spell on you or any creature that you touch. This is great. It allows you to get rid of the most annoying effects there are. Mind you, there's of course going to be a discussion. There's a few spells, there's a few spells that have very specific spells that are needed to remove them. Obviously, Cleansing Touch is not going to remove those. But for a lot of effects, Cleansing Touch is a great way to get rid of it. I mean, this is potentially 5 times a day that you can end a really devastating spell. You do have to touch the creature though. That could be, I mean, don't forget that is, you can't just look at something and end the spell. You have to touch it. So in some situations that might be difficult, but in general, touchy, spell go away. And then in between 14th level and 18, everything is against subclasses and what have you. But at level 18 you get the last general Paladin feature, which is the one that improves your auras. As I've said already, all your auras will go from 10 to 30 feet, and that is where the Paladin ends. The capstone ability, the real capstone ability for every Paladin, is embedded in their subclass. I haven't said it yet, but Paladins get a lot from their subclasses: Channel Divinity, Spells, your capstone feature. So the general Paladin capstone feature is not that amazing. Yay, longer, wider auras, which is why Paladins are so popular to be multiclassed with some other charisma classes. But your subclass capstone features are a lot stronger. And that, ladies and gentlemen, the one ladies and gentlemen, other people, I don't care, that is where we end our trip to the Paladin base features. I hope you've all enjoyed watching me as the area around me got darker and darker. I don't have any professional lighting in this attic, you know. And I'll hopefully see you all in 2 weeks in the attic dungeon.